All right, we're going to look at Excel's group by function, and we'll just start by typing it out. So we will say group by. And what this will do is this will summarize data for you, and you get to pick the function that it summarizes it by. So in this case, we're going to say, let's add up the number of cases per warehouse. So we'll do that by selecting what's called the row fields. So we're going to tell Excel where the rows are that we want to have in this table that we're going to output. So we said per warehouse, right? So we will come to C2, hold down the mouse, come all the way down to C13. We're going to leave the header off for now, but there is a way to deal with the header, so we'll get there in a later example. That's the row fields. And then the values that we want to sum is the cases, right? So we will select that range, hit your comma, and now you have all of these functions to choose from. So if we want to, in this case, just add up the number of cases, we'll just type out, or we'll just click on sum, and now you can be done. So we'll just enter a parentheses to show that it's the end of the arguments that we just gave the function, and we will hit enter. And then nice and easy like that, you do get a summary by number of cases per warehouse from that original table. So that's really easy. So let's use the same data, but just show some more examples of the flexibility of what we can do with this function. So let's say that we want to see the amount of cases per warehouse, but we want to see the ratio. So the percent of cases in each warehouse. So let's do the same function. We're going to group by, we'll pick the row fields, the warehouse. And then again, for this one, we'll pick the values of the cases. But we said we wanted the ratio of them in each warehouse. So there's a new built-in function called %of. Let's pick that. And that will return the percent of each one. But you'll notice that group by, one of the things that makes it a little bit difficult to work with is that it doesn't automatically format the output. Okay, so in this case, these are still just formatted as regular numbers. Let's change them to %, and that's what we're looking for. But let's look at this. It says more than half of the cases are at the North warehouse. It's a very quick way to summarize this data. All right, so I said earlier that this function can deal with headers. Sometimes the problem with these array functions is that you have to copy and paste the header. So the header is static, the data is dynamic, but this function can handle them. So what I mean by that is we will come down, let's grab the function again so we don't have to retype it. We will paste it here. And I accidentally created an error that's important to understand about this function. This function writes data to the right and down outside of the cell that you put it in. Okay, so it's not like just using the sum formula where it puts a value just in that cell. What it does is the function just lives in E18, but it's writing to the right and down. So if it doesn't have room to do that, so in this case there were values left over below it, it will just give you the spill error. So let me select those and delete them, and now it can write it out. So again, the formatting is, I'll guess it's fair to say, a bit of a frustration with this function, but that's just the way functions work. Let me paste the format of that %. But now we said that we want to put the headers into it. So we're going to do two things. One is that we will change the ranges to include the headers. We'll just change that to a 1 and this to a 1. So now if we scroll up and we look at what we're grabbing, we also included the text string cases in the text that says warehouse. So let's just hit enter at this point and see what it does. Okay, so we haven't done enough yet, but you will notice what it has done is it was smart enough not to think that those were part of the data. It recognized that they were headers and left them out. Otherwise, you would see one of these values would be the word warehouse, because it would think that was one of them. So it's already being smart. But what we want to do is double click in it. Let's go to the end. And the next argument that it can accept is field headers. And you can tell that's an optional argument because there are square brackets around it, but we're going to choose to use it this time. So we will hit a comma, and then it will show us the options. So we can say no. That's probably what it's set to right now. We can say, yes, I have headers, but don't show. That's actually what it's doing. So if we change it to no, it'll probably grab the headers and show them. Yeah, so this is not what you want in this case. I said, I don't have headers in there. So it treated warehouse like it was a piece of the data. So let's go, we don't want 0, but let's see those options again. All right, so what we want to do is we want to say, yes, we do have them and please show them. So let's type a 3 out and hit enter. And now we can see that the warehouses are east, north, and south, and the cases are distributed this way. I'm going to take a second and move this data down so we can continue to see it with our examples. Yeah, and you'll notice it's not breaking the formulas. I thought it might. We're good. We can just move this around. The formulas are like any other Excel formulas where they change. They adapt when you move the source data. All right, so for our next example, we want to do the number of cases by item, then by warehouse. Okay, so we're actually grouping this on 2 different levels. So let's go ahead and type group by. And then for the row fields, there were 2 of them, right? There's going to be now items and then warehouse. So because we're putting 2 of them in and they're not together, okay, so if it was items and cases, we could just do that whole range, but they're not together. So we have to embed the choose columns function. We're going to grab A and B, okay, which is the first and the third column. Those are our row fields in this case. The values are still going to be B26 through B37. Let's keep this, let's move this back to sum, and we will hit enter. All right, so that's pretty cool, right? It did it by item, so hammer, nails, pliers, by warehouse. You'll notice that the total is the same. That's one way to check to see if it's working. So this is 97. If we come up to our first example, it's 97. But let's say we want to just switch that. We'll say cases by warehouse, by item. Maybe you want to look at your inventory in that way. Well, that's a really easy change. So we will come down, we will paste that again, and then we'll just go in and we'll choose different columns. So let's just say we want the third one first, and we want the first one second. Hit enter, there we go. This is by warehouse, by item. And so you may be catching on by now of how flexible this is. Whoops, what'd I just do? Don't know what just happened. If you want to put the headers in, let's just do that, right? Let's expand this. Row 25 must be where the header is. Sorry, that's off the screen right now. And then we will hit enter to get to the field headers argument, and we'll say yes and show. Items, warehouse, cases, beautiful. All right, let's move our data down a little bit more so we can see it. And we will do cases by warehouse, by item with subtotals. We have some synergy here, so let's take this one and copy it. You'll notice I don't just copy the contents of E40 just by doing Control-C or Command-C. Actually grab the text. That allows me to paste it without the ranges shifting. All right, so we said by warehouse, by item, which is what we have right now. And then we said with subtotals. So there is an argument in here to choose subtotals. We'll go over to the right. We will hit the comma to show that now we're in something called total depth. And here we want to choose, we already have a grand total, but let's also show subtotals. So that'll be number 2. We'll type a 2, we'll hit enter, and we must have made it too big. We're going to move this over. There we go. So now we have cases by warehouse, so south, north, by item with subtotals. So the subtotals are a little bit hard to see here, but we'll see one that makes sense. So the nails are amongst the north and the south warehouse, but there's a total of 24 nails. Let's come over to the left to make sure that's right. There's 11 nails and there's 13 nails. So that looks right. All right, I'm going to delete this because it's giving that, it's writing it too far down. It's not giving me room for this next one. So this will be, we're just going to, let's move the data down. We're going to bring it back and then we'll do something else. So we'll just go back to the simple cases by warehouse. All right, let's say now we want to filter the data. So that's a powerful native built-in part of the group by function, is that we can also filter. So instead of embedding the filter function, so there is something just called filter, right? You can embed that inside group by, but this is a lot easier to only use one function. So we will say just cases of nails by warehouse. So let's grab this other one so we don't have to retype it. But we want to add a filter in here. So let's look at the arguments. We'll go down to the end. We'll hit a comma. Total depth, we're going to not do that this time. So we'll just hit another comma. So we just won't give it a value. Sort order, we're not going to sort it. What we want to do is filter it. So this argument is called filter array. And what we do is we select the array that we want to filter by, and include the header on there just so that it's the same height as the others. Everything needs to be the same height, meaning the same number of rows. And we will say only when it's equal to, and we will do quotes because this is a string of characters, not a number, nails. Oops, let's get the capitalization right, nails. We will hit enter. And this is just the distribution of nails by warehouse. And let's prove that out. Nails 11, nails 13, north and south. And one more thing that makes this a powerful function, especially when you compare it to a pivot table, is that it automatically updates. So let's just add some more nails in here and we'll make sure this is working because it won't add another line. It should just change the total. Let's say this instead of a saw is nails. We'll change it and let's watch this total here change. That changed from 11 to 21. And next we'll show a more powerful function, a little bit harder to use, but the same principle, called pivot by. I'll see you in that video. Thanks for watching.